Me and Maggie had been together 6 years before I put a ring on it. We'd been living in the same apartment in Harlem for 3 of those years. 3rd floor, corner unit. We knew our neighbors, knew the block, knew the rhythms of the building. It felt back hours. It was a Thursday night in October when this started. We needed a few things, so we drove out to Target around 9. Nothing unusual. We'd do it all the time. Maggie was pushing the cart. I was checking my phone. Just a regular run. We were somewhere in the grocery section when I noticed a man looking at my fiancée. He was maybe 40, 45, average build, dark jacket, nothing that would make you look twice. Except he wasn't looking at the shelves. He was looking at Maggie. Not a glance, not the kind of look you brush off. He was just watching her move through the aisle like he had all the time in the world. I looked at him. He didn't look away immediately, just held it for a second, then turned back to the shelf in front of him like nothing happened. I didn't say anything to Maggie. I told myself it was nothing. People look, it happens. We finished up, checked out, headed to the car. He was behind us in the parking lot. Not close, maybe 30 yards back, but he was moving in the same direction and his eyes were forward, and I just knew. You know when someone is walking somewhere, and you know when someone is following you. It's a different energy. I've lived in New York my whole life. I know the difference. I took a different route to the car, cut through 2 rows we didn't need to go through. He adjusted, stayed with us. I got Maggie in the car fast, told her to lock the door, pulled out before she could ask me what was wrong. I watched the mirror the whole way out of the lot. I saw him standing at the edge of the parking lot watching us leave, just standing there. I took 3 extra turns on the way home, doubled back once. By the time we got to our block, I was pretty sure we were clean. Maggie asked me what was going on. I told her some guy had been watching her in the store. She got quiet and looked out the window the rest of the way up. We went upstairs, locked the door, and didn't talk much more about it. By morning, I'd almost convinced myself it was nothing. That was Thursday. Sunday night, around 11, I heard knocking at the door. 3 knocks. Patient. Not frantic, not aggressive. Just 3 knocks like someone who had all night. I looked through the peephole. Man in his 40s. Dark jacket. I couldn't place him immediately because you don't expect it. You don't connect those dots that fast. He said, "Delivery." I looked at him through the peephole for a second. He was holding something, a small package. Looked real enough. I said I wasn't expecting anything. He said it was for this address. Said my address back to me correctly. I told him my delivery wouldn't do until next week. He said no, it's here now. Said the address again. Said it was the right place. And here's the thing. Logistically, everything he was saying was almost plausible. Deliveries come early sometimes, but something was off, and I couldn't name it right away. It was the way he was persuading, like he needed me to open the door more than he needed to deliver a package. A real delivery driver doesn't care if you're skeptical. They leave it at the door and move on. This man was working for it. I told him to leave it at the door. He paused. Then he said, "Okay." Then I heard his footsteps going back down the hall. I waited 5 minutes before I opened the door. There was nothing there. Maggie was at her sister's that night. I was alone. I pulled up the building camera app on my phone. We'd installed a small camera at our door about a year prior, more out of habit than anything else. I went back through the footage from the last 20 minutes. He hadn't left. He'd walked down the hall, stopped just outside the camera's range, waited about 4 minutes, then came back, stood at our door for almost a full minute just standing there. Then he walked to the stairwell door, pushed it open, and let it close behind him. Then 30 seconds later, he came back. He stood in front of our door and he looked directly into the camera, not scanning the hallway, not looking around, directly into the lens like he'd clocked it the first time and had been thinking about it since. And what I heard him say really threw me off guard. Like out of everything, I wasn't expecting that. He said, "I know you're in there, Maggie. I'm not gonna stop until you hear me out." I sat with my phone in my hand in my own apartment, and I felt something I don't have a clean word for. It wasn't just fear. It was the specific feeling of your home not being yours anymore, of something getting in without using a door. Maggie wasn't there. He didn't know that. He thought she was inside and he was standing in my hallway talking to her through a wall. I called 911. They took about 40 minutes to show up. 2 officers, both seemed more inconvenienced than concerned. They watched the footage, took my phone number, said they'd file a report. One of them told me it was probably nothing, maybe a confused neighbor. I showed him the part where the man says her name directly into the camera. He said they'd look into it. They gave him a citation sometime in the next few days. I don't even know exactly when. Nobody called me back. He never came back. I told Maggie the next morning, showed her the footage. She watched it twice and didn't say anything for a long time. Then she said she had never seen him before in her life, had no idea who he was. She wasn't performing. I know her face. She was genuinely shaken. And that's the part that never left me. Not the knock, not the camera, not even hearing him say her name in that hallway. It's that we never found out how he knew it. We didn't have our names on the buzzer. We weren't listed anywhere publicly with that address. He followed us from a Walmart on a Thursday night, and 3 days later he was standing outside our door calling her by name like he'd known her for years. I still don't know how he did that. Nobody ever explained it to me. The police didn't follow up, at least not in any way that reached us. He just disappeared the same way he appeared. Maggie and I got married the following spring. We moved out of that apartment about 4 months after the incident. Different borough, different building, different everything. But I still check the camera every night before bed. Every single night without fail. I don't know what I'm looking for exactly. I just know I don't stop checking. I've been driving Uber in Louisiana going on 4 years. Most rides blur together. Airport runs, bar pickups, late night drops. Someone gets in, you drive, they get out. This one didn't blur. It was 2022, sometime in the fall. Evening ride, maybe 7 or 8 o'clock. I remember it was still warm the way Louisiana stays warm longer than it should. I pulled up to the pickup location, a residential street, nothing unusual, and this young man got in. Late 20s maybe, early 30s at most. Average looking, nothing that would make you look twice. But from the moment he sat down, something was off. Not threatening, just absent. Like his body was in my car, but his head was somewhere else entirely. He didn't say anything, didn't look at his phone, just sat there with his hands on his knees, staring at nothing. I'm not the type of driver that forces conversation. I'm not trying to perform friendliness for a 5-star rating. If someone wants quiet, I give them quiet. But this was a different kind of quiet. Heavy, like something was sitting on top of it. I put on some music after a few minutes. Old Freddie Mercury, "Don't Stop Me Now," came on, and he shifted in his seat slightly. Then he said something like, "Yeah, I haven't heard this in a while." And just like that, we started talking. It happened naturally. We got into music, then somehow into the state of Louisiana, the violence, what the city had become. He was sharp, thoughtful. I genuinely enjoyed it. By 30 minutes in, I'd completely forgotten about that heavy quiet from the start. At some point, I asked him why he'd been so off when he first got in. He got quiet again for a second. Then he said he'd lost his girlfriend. I assumed he meant a breakup. I said something generic. "Sorry to hear that," something like that. He said, "No, she died a few days ago." I'm an empath. I don't say that lightly. When someone puts something like that in the air, I feel it land. I told him I was sorry, genuinely. I asked how she passed. After knowing what I know now, I probably should have minded my business. He went cold. Not sad cold, just cold, like a light switched off behind his eyes, and then he started talking. He said her name was Rose, said she'd been seeing her ex behind his. Ex was a convict, in and out. They'd had a fight, him and Rose, and she'd left to go see this ex, and the ex had killed her in the bathroom of his apartment. That's where they found her. I kept my eyes on the road, and I said I was sorry, and I meant it, but I started to feel like the story was made up. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, this ain't adding up. My BS detector was going off the radar. Something about the way he said it didn't sit right. Not what he said, how he said it. Like he'd practiced certain parts and then hit a wall where the practice ran out. The reason they fought, he skipped it completely, moved past it like it wasn't relevant. How he found out she was dead. No call, no moment, no her sister showed up at my door. Just she was found and she was gone. Said it flat, like a fact he'd already made peace with before he had any reason to. I kept driving, kept my face neutral, but something in me had shifted. He started crying somewhere around the hour mark. Not loud, just quiet tears, and he turned toward the window. I didn't say anything. Sometimes there's nothing to say, and you just hold the space. We got to his location. He stepped out, then came round to my side window. He thanked me, said I was good people, said he'd give me 5 stars. I told him to take care of himself, and I meant that too, whatever the truth was. He walked away, and for a second my eyes lingered on him. That's when I noticed something at the back of his neck. It was scratched badly, like someone had dragged their nails through the skin hard enough to leave real marks. Red, raised, a day or 2 old at most. I thought maybe it had a bad scuffle with someone, but it didn't make sense with anything he'd told me, and my brain was already too full of things it didn't make sense. I sat in that car for a while after he went inside. About 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my car between fares, just scrolling through my phone the way you do. Local news, a young woman found murdered in an apartment bathroom. I almost kept scrolling. Then a detail stopped me, then another. I sat up straight in my seat and read the whole thing twice. Her name wasn't Rose. I'm just gonna say it and cut the suspense. After everything, the gaps in the story, the way he went cold, the name that didn't match, those marks on his neck, I genuinely believe he killed her. I don't have evidence, I can't prove anything, but I've been driving strangers around Louisiana for 4 years, and I know when something is off. Everything about that man was off. I never checked if he left the 5 stars. I don't think I want to know. I was driving from my brother's house. We had just finished burying my mom. I hit Jacksonville around 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I was pretty exhausted from the drive. I just wanted to get home and decompress. I took an exit off the highway. By this time, I was about 45 minutes max from being at my spot. That's when I noticed a woman on the side of the road next to a sedan waving her arm down for someone to stop. She was probably in her 30s, nothing alarming about her. I almost kept driving, but she really looked like she needed help with whatever was going on, and I didn't want to have to carry the guilt of not helping. I parked behind her car and got out. The first thing I noticed was the smell of weed. I'm a stoner, so I know what it smells like. It was sitting heavy around that car. I brushed it off. She was immediately warm, grateful. Said she'd been out there for about 30 minutes. Said she'd been flagging people down and nobody had stopped. The way she said it made me feel like I'd done something decent. I remember that feeling specifically because of what came later. I asked her what was wrong. She said she'd driven over something sharp, had a flat tire. I told her it was easy stuff and asked if she had the tools. She said she had a spare in the trunk, simple enough. She popped the trunk and pulled out the spare and the tools, and I got to work. I crouched down by the flat tire and quickly noticed the wrench wasn't the right size. I had a universal lug wrench in my car. I got up and walked back to grab it. As I came back, I glanced through her window and noticed a gun on her dashboard. A pistol. Looked like a .45. I looked at it for maybe 2 seconds, then looked away. I told myself, people carry in Florida. It's legal. It's common. I crouched back down and went back to the tire. But a minute or two after I started feeling this unease, and the little dog in the back seat hadn't stopped barking since I pulled up. It was pretty annoying. She pulled out a blunt and lit it while I was crouched there working, offered it to me. I said, "Nah, I'm good." She shrugged and kept smoking, making small talk. How long I'd been in Jacksonville, did I know the area well, stuff like that. I kept my answers short. Yeah, not long, something like that. I just wanted to finish and leave. I was almost done when I heard footsteps. A man walked up, big guy, early 40s maybe, the kind of build that fills a door frame. Full beard, looked like someone who took the gym seriously. I flinched when I saw him. I'm not going to pretend I didn't. But he walked straight to her and kissed her. She kissed him back. I was crouched there, confused, like what the fuck is happening? They moved to the other side of the car together. I could hear them talking, but couldn't make out the words, just muffled voices, back and forth, calm. I finished the tire. He came back around and looked down at me and said, "Thank you, buddy." Said she'd called him when she got stranded. Said he was glad someone had stopped to help out. He seemed completely relaxed, grateful even, like a normal person whose girlfriend had a rough evening and a stranger helped out. I told him it was no problem, just being helpful. I packed up the tools, put the flat in the trunk, closed it, said goodbye, got in my car and pulled out. I was maybe 200 yards down the road when something made me check my mirror. I don't know why I looked. There was no reason to look, but I did. I saw her come up behind him and shoot him. It all happened so fast. I don't remember making a decision to accelerate. My foot just went down and I drove. I drove the whole 30 minutes home without stopping, and I don't remember most of it. I called my mom when I got inside. Then I remembered. My mom was gone. I just buried her that morning. I don't know who I was trying to call. I just needed to tell someone what I saw, and the first person my brain went to was her. I sat there with my phone in my hand and I didn't call anybody. I never reported it. I looked for something on the news for weeks after. Nothing that matched. What I keep coming back to is that she planned all of it before I got there. The stranded car, the spare tire in the trunk ready to go, the small talk, the blunt. She needed someone to change that tire so he would come. She needed him to feel safe when he arrived. A stranger helping his girlfriend on the side of the road. Nothing suspicious about that. I was the reason he relaxed. I was the reason he turned his back. She didn't look at me when it was done because I'd already served my purpose. I was never part of the story. I was just a prop in hers.